On to one of our stories on our watch on the agenda this morning. Hundreds of people have been left homeless after a fire broke out in the Joe Slovo informal settlement in Langa yesterday. It's unclear whether there have been any deaths or injuries. For more on this, we are now joined by SABC News reporter Atule Joka. Atule, it's great to have you on the program. Welcome to the agenda this morning. I see that it's quite busy behind you. Can you just tell us, how did the fire start?
Well, good morning, Mkolisi, and a warm welcome to SABC News viewers. We are at Joe Slovo informal settlements in Gwalanga Township. Well, a fire broke out yesterday just before 6 p.m. About 300 homes were destroyed and 1,200 people have been displaced here in Gwalanga. As you see behind me, people are trying to collect the rubble. They are trying to collect what is left and the remnants of their shacks. Some of them are trying to rebuild. We saw very horrific videos of people who were driving through the N2 who were taking visuals. Some of the people were on top of their shacks as the fire was engulfing some of their home, gutting them to the ground. They were standing on top of the shacks taking some of the videos as they saw their shacks getting to the ground. At this stage yet, it is not known what of the fire that occurred here, but over 300 houses were destroyed, 1,200 people are displaced. But we will speak to some of the community leaders to try and ascertain what was the cause of the fire. I am joined by Mr. Skwinda, who is a community leader here, to try and tell us more about what actually happened here. Tata, kuye kwenzeka ntoni na izolo? Ngicela ume ngapha. Ngizakubambela umboko. Ngicela nje siqale kwenzeke ntoni izolo?
Izolo siyahlaselwa ngumlilo osingawazi ukuba uvele kanjani. Kwatsha ihoki kanti qingathela ihoki ezilapha zi plus minus 500 ezitshileyo. Abantu ke bachaphazelekile baye balala phandle ngenxeni yongabunazindawo babetshelwe. So lonto izawubangela into yobana sicele kurhulumente kumcimbi odibene nematerial abonelela abantu. Abantu bazama ukubonelela ngematerial bakwazi ukwakha indawo zabo zokuhlala. Sikwathi gqolo sibongoza kurhulumente umcimbi odibene nolakhiwo. Sicinga uba ngo-2010 kwakuqaliswe i-development apha abantu bakhelwe izindlu. If abantu bebesakhelwa ngesingathethi ngokutshelwa kwabantu abangaka ngoku. So siyalicela uphuhliso labantu baseJoe Slovo ibe kanti iyaphuhliseka iJoe Slovo.
So abantu baye bathini ke ngoku? I understand kuthiwa ngabantu abangapha kwewaka abangenandawo zokuhlala ngoku. Baye bathini izolo? Yaye ndibonile uthatha nelist. Kuza kwenzeka ntoni ngabantu aba bangenamakhaya?
Okwangoku sisalinde isebe lika-disaster sibonisane nomasipala ukuba kufanele baze kuthweni. Ngokuba singabahlali asikayazi ngoku into eza kwenzeka, kodwa ke sisaqhubekeka nokubhalisa sikwazi ulazi inani kakuhlela abantu esidila ngabo.
Mhlawumbi ngathi ngeyiphi imingeni enijamele nayo ningabahlali kwakunye nabantu ababatshisweyo, mhlawumbi nonobangela womlilo noba yintoni na?
Umcimbi unobangela womlilo siyawusola kwizinto ezidibene nemibane. Kulaa nto into okokubana apha singabantu abangenambane iindawo ezininji, so abanye batsala kwabanye. Kwicala lemingeni esijongene nayo, 2 ngokokufika kwenantsika kokutsha komlilo phezolo ingxaki esiye sayifumana, iitrakhi zee-fire brigaders zizofika apha zingenamanzi. Iyasitaka ke loo nto leyo uba xa zisiza zingenamanzi inoba zizokwenza ntoni. Ngoba xa kuthiwa kuyatsha funeka bezocima umlilo, but ke ngoku bazawucima njani bengezinamanzi.
Kuye kwavakala nento yoba ngathi bathi bekhona uphazamiseko besithi bekuqhawulwa nemibhobho le, kwenzeke ntoni?
Ya, yenzekile loo nto leyo ukuqhawulwa kwemibhobho phezolo kuba bekuzanywa ucinyo. So zezinye izinto esiye sanengxaki nazo. Siyabethakala nakumcimbi wamanzi apha ekuhlaleni. Ayasishotela because ngesikwazile uba umzekelo sikhaleze sicime nathi lo mlilo.
Nkosi kakhulu. Well, Mkolisi, this is one of the community leaders just explaining to the extent and the broadness of the problem, saying, yeah, in Kwalanga, they do not have adequate water supply and they do not have electricity, and they suspect that it was an electrical fault which caused the fire to break out there yesterday. And they also struggle to try and extinguish and douse the fire, as they do not have enough water to try and douse and extinguish that fire that occurred here. I will ask my camera a colleague to just pan around to just show you, because when this fire broke out, we saw in one of the videos an explosion which occurred here. It was understood to be one of the electrical poles which made a huge sound of an explosion there yesterday. As you can see, this is where this site is located. So this is what actually happened as people were trying to extinguish and douse that fire. I'll also try to pen down to just also show you that some people are already trying the rebuilding process there in Mkolisi. But not so long, I will be joined by the councillor of this ward. Welcome to SABC News. Quite a devastating news that happened here yesterday. I understand you say you want to communicate in this course, but the people here are complaining more about the service delivery issues that they are facing in the area. What do you understand around those issues?
Inye into endinoyithetha about service delivery one based on into edibene nematerial, that is eyapheliswa back ngo-2020 and ingene seyiphelisiwe mna, which is what is frustrating kuthi thina singo-ward councillor, because xa size ebantwini abantu baba nethemba lento yokubana one sizaba able to provide material, which is now the city of Cape Town yayivala since ngo-2020 up until today, which is if national owabangela loo nto leyo sizawuaphila, because abantu bethu bahlala ematyotyombeni, that is your informal settlement. So asinokwazi uphila nemeko njena, abanye abanayo not even a single cent yobana barebuild izi-structure zabo so that bazokwazi uba bahlale. So uba ngunational or nguprovince okanye ngumasipala uqobo, I think we need into yokokubana sizama uvula isithebe sengxoxo nabo ibuyiselwe back i-building material, because amazinga esibuwabona ayingomazinga anophinda akhe abantu, but because abantu abanazo i-means bayawavusa amazinki baphinde babethelele i-structures zabo. Yes.
Talking here about the building material which was seized by the city of Cape Town, which type of building material are we talking about? Are we still talking about corrugated iron structures and wood, or are we talking about a building material which is sustainable for housing?
Besithetha ngamazinki nepali ebekade at least bayi-relief ebantwini, uyayibona loo nto le xa kutshile sithetha ngaloo type of material. Amazinki nepali at least bayi-relief ebantwini, because bebekwazi at least uqala endaweni kwinto okokubana baqale ngamazinki asetshile.
And ngoku kuza kwenzeka ntoni now that ngapha kwabantu aba-1200 abanandawo zokuhlala yabona benithathile ithi kuza kuthini ngoku?
Esibubona nawo on site abantu babhizi bayazenzela up until sifumane mhlawumbi icebo elibhetere lento okokubana ilishwa leli ke into okokubana amaholo around Langa avaliwe. Even last night khabakwazi uncedakala nge-accommodation, because elinye liyarenoveyithwa, elinye was assigned for into edibene ne-COVID, liyi-one elishekileyo lirana zonke ii-activities zakwalanga likamasipala. So abantu bayazinceda neefemeli zabo bayabancedisa into okokubana babe nendawo zolala. Thina asikabinayo the better plan for bona into okokubana for today and the day after today bazawuthini na. But one thing endinokuxelela yona into okokubana usasa is on site, no disaster is on site, and nabanye ke abantu abakhe banqonqoza ku-office yam abaza namancedo, not amancedo e-building material, zinto ezifana nokutya, zinto ezifana nofumana i-information kwicala likasasa, so that azokwazi nokokubana ezinye ii-benefits for abahlali zifumaneke.
So if I understand you correctly, you are saying as councillors and as government, you do not have plans as yet to house people who are homeless, to try and provide shelter for them?
Azikabikho, andifuna ukukhatha mhlobam, azikabikho ngoku. Up until the city officials mhlawumbi nabanye stakeholders sihlale sibonisane into okokubana for abantu abatshelweyo izawuthini imeko yabo moving forward. And ilishwa lile into okokubana ayiyokuphela le isite etshileyo, zibe ntathu izolo uba ndibala kakuhle ezitshe kule wadi iyi-1, enye yazo ide yathatha umphefumlo womntu, which is iwadi ekhokhelwe ndim leyo. Iproblem endiyifeyisileyo as ward councillor, kuba ekugqibeleni abantu xa bebona ward councillor babona isisombululo kwiiproblem zabo.
Thank you so much.
Ndiyabulela kakhulu.
Well, Mkolisi, that was the ward councillor of this ward saying at this stage they do not have proper plans to try and provide shelter for those people who were displaced and are now homeless, saying of course they will be waiting to hear from the city. We understand that a joint operations committee has been set up to try and look at measures that will see and also help people to try and get that much needed shelter. The councillor also telling us that not only this fire that occurred here yesterday, about 3 separate fires occurred earlier on at around 6 a.m. There was fire that occurred here and which led to wounding and fatally burning one person. Next at around 11 a.m. another fire broke out which gutted about 15 informal structures before this big one at around 6 p.m. which gutted over 300 houses. But the gift of the givers, a humanitarian aid fund, is also here. Ali Sablé, just to tell us more, Ali, just yet another devastation. As the gift of givers, you are here. What do you make of what happened here?
This fire is one of the biggest for 2022 yet. We were inundated at school as soon as the fire occurred. We just had a meeting with disaster management, the relevant role players this morning. As we know, over 300 structures burnt out, close to 1,500 people displaced. Our teams will be providing urgent humanitarian need in terms of hot meals, blankets, water, baby care packs. We will be here for the next 3 to 5 days to do further assessments, and thereafter we will see what's the other major needs of the community.
When you see fires like this, and also maybe there's also negligence that is involved, and also people not being afforded enough resources and places to live in, what do you make of that in terms of the administrative neglect that could be happening as a result of this?
As we know, these people have been asking for houses for a very long time. I believe some of them are long on a waiting list as well. We are there more to provide the humanitarian needs, but we find this pattern following now, where people are complaining they had enough. Year after year, it's the same process happening, where structures are being burnt out, people are being left homeless. And as you know, during the COVID-19 pandemic, many of those people lost their jobs. The main concern now is building material as well. So we hope with this national or provincial, they will be able to assist this community because many of them are not in the financial needs to purchase new material.
So what will you be looking to help them exactly with?
We are providing hot nutritious meals for the next 5 days. We're providing blankets, mattresses, baby care packs. I believe the water's off at the moment. We're providing them with water as well. And if they require any psychological assistance, we'll be offering them that as well.
In terms of rebuilding, I know the last time we did a similar story like this, you did manage to collect material to try and help the people there. That was afterwards we had left the area. Are there any similar plans at this side? And what would you require in order to be able to provide the people, what sort of donations or a relief that you might need to also try and help people to rebuild here?
Okay, we're in the meeting this morning. They say they're waiting for provincial government to declare this a disaster site. Once it's declared a disaster site, the funds will be available, and then they can assist with the people of buying material. So that meeting is currently taking place. So if this area has been declared a disaster site, provincial government will be able to make funding available, and for that they will be able to assist them with any building material. But we are monitoring the situation. From there, we will relay the message back to management.
Ali, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Okay. Ali Sablé of the Gift of the Givers saying that a meeting is underway to try and declare this site a disaster site so that government can release funds in order to help people to rebuild their homes. He is also saying that in the next 5 days, they will try and provide people with the necessary essentials, including 5 hot meals for the next 5 days. I just want to show you what is happening behind me, ma'am. If you can just allow us to try and get those visuals. And then these are corrugated iron structures of the people here as they try to collect the remnants of their fires and also to try and rebuild. It is quite difficult as people are trying to get in the shot, but I want to show you this is what people are trying to do here as they try to rebuild and collect some of their belongings and the remnants and the scrap metals that were left from their houses. But we will be here to try and bring you up to speed as to what is happening and also some of those interventions that will be taking place here. But as we understand, this is quite a structural and a systematic problem. As we know, it emanates from the problems of the spatial planning. As you know, that people formerly or in the past were segregated in the lines of race and class. That is why they are here. So they build in these low-lying areas, in these small areas, high-density areas to try and build their shacks. We do not have spaces amongst in between them. They are trying to build these structures which do not have service deliveries, these structures which do not have water, do not have electricity, which sometimes lead to this, they impound these problems that often we see in places such as the fire that engulfed over 300 homesteads here, displacing over 1,200 people. You saw as you're talking to the local councillor saying at this stage they do not have a proper plan to try and provide a shelter for the people. But the gift of the givers is here and there are meetings underway to try and see what are some of those mitigating factors that will be taking place to try and make sure that people will be provided the much needed relief.
So now, Atule, as we are having this chat, I can see that you also might be battling to hear me there, but there has been some reports how the community tried to disrupt firefighters when they came to try and, douse the fires there and try and put the fires off. What is the sense that you're getting on the ground as far as the community is concerned? Also, we want to know where are some of those residents being housed in the interim as these rebuilding efforts begin?
Very often in policy, what we hear from the people is the despondency. They are always complaining or they always feel the neglect and say that most of the time the fire and rescue services take time or take longer to try and reach their areas. And we understand that 10 trucks were deployed here yesterday to try and douse that fire, and 7 water trucks were also here. But they say that some of the water trucks that came here did not have even water. So they had those complaints and concerns as to why why would the fire and rescue services would come here without having adequate water. So they had those complaints and those concerns. But I will try and also bring in the councillor just to just explain to us and clarify the point about the trucks that were impeded from entering the area of the fire and rescue services. We understand that they were trying to be blocked to do their duties. What do you understand about what happened there?
No, into enzekayo khange zitry ublocker more than is structure ezi-extendiweyo, which is funeke ndiaphilile kwi-community into okokubana ezi structures zazikhona izitrato before, but now izitrato azisekho anymore. Inida ke thina zizi-community leaders, the community leaders with abahlali nam ndibe khona kulondo leyo, because akhange sincedise izolo into okokubana bezi-numbers i-firefighters up ngowukhontenekile umlilo mhlawumbi ngokungekho mkhulu kangaka if bezikwazile ungena zigqobhoze ilantuka i-firefighters. Zona ziresponde very quickly kwinto ibisenzeka izolo and bezize kangangoko. But i-challenge esinayo yinto okokubana kukho ii-extensions ezithi zivale izitrato.
But the city of Cape Town, in their statement, they said there were people who tried to block their trucks and there were people who tried to cut their hose pipes.
Into enjalo akhange mna ndiyifumane into okokubana bebeblock ii-trucks. The only umntu ebekhona endikhe ndadibana naye ebebanjwe ngu-SABC ebeyi-1 esithi etyholwa ngento okokubana usika oopipe betruck uyi-1. Loo nto leyo ndithe xa ndiyisabela last night kwafumaniseka uba xa ndibuza uba wenze ntoni kwathiwa yena ebezama usika upipe wetruck. So enye nenye yoblokwa kwelantuka kwe-trucks andiqinisekanga ukhona umuntu onomali onobloka i-truck ezisa uncedo kuye kwimeko ebesikuyo izolo. Andiqinisekanga bingenzeka loo nto.
Thank you so much, Councillor. Well, Mxolisi, there is the ward councillor denying that the people tried to block the truck or tried to cut the hose pipes of those particular trucks. And my colleague will try and walk you to just show you the extent of the damage and also what is actually happening on the scene. Yeah, Mxolisi. I will ask my colleague to try and pan for you to show you the type of damage which is happening here. As you can see, some of the remaining items of the people, I see stoves, I see tables, some of those remnants. As people are trying to pick up, and also trying to squash their corrugated iron structures to fold them so they can be able to pack them in trucks and move them to other areas. This is what is happening here, Mxolisi. This is the extent of the damage. And also we do also want to see another side just to give you an overview of this whole place. Joe Slovo informal settlement in Kwalanga. This is the site where over 300 structures were gutted. Just to show you the extent of the damage, and those houses that were razed to the ground, those informal settlements that were gutted by this fire. What we see are the people trying to collect what is left of their belongings. And because we see others already have some new material to try and rebuild. This was caused by the devastation here in Kolisi. People are using any type of tool to try and rebuild. To try and rebuild their homes. And Kolisi, we also want to try and see if we can speak to one of the people here who's trying. Volumam, kunjani? Siyaphila. Jabona uzamuqokelela. Nawe uye wachaphazeleka ngilomlilo izolo kwenzeka ntoni?
Asazi futhi bakwenzeka ntoni sibone kusitsha iweke yi1.
Ubuphi wena?
Bendikhona ndingekho because bendigude.
Oh, okay. Uvese kuswa kuphumlile.
Adiva futhi.
Uvese kuswa kuphumlile wenzeka.
Mntasi.
Na. So ngoku nizama ukwenza nje ndiyabona uba nizama uwasonga amazili.
Sizama ugxumeka mntasekhaya because izolo silele phandle so ke noko sifuna ufihla inhloko namhlanje.
Yaba kuthiwa namahholo abavaliwe ngenxa yento ze-COVID.
Kuvalwe yonke into mntasekhaya so sifuna indawo yolala oko kwa namhlanje because izolo silele phandle.
Kodwa mhlawumbi ngathi zeziphi ezinye izinto enizifunayo mhlawumbi ningabahlali?
Andiva futhi.
Ngathi zeziphi ezinye izinto enizifunayo mhlawumbi ningabahlali?
Sibawela into yobana sakhelwe okokuqala because ke uphuhliso belusamile sibawela into yoba uphuhliso luphinde luqhubekeke or else wonke umuntu approved ahamba bheke forest village uyayiqaphela because most yethu apha si-approved and sasithenjisiwe into yobana sibheka eforest village but asiboni ngoku kusathethwa ngeforest village no wonder why kunje and kuxinene apha bhuti asikwazanga nothutha kwanto because uyayibona nawe imeko ithini na so ingase urhulumente wethu asinike indawo zohlala sibheke ezindlini.
Isathetha kanye ngenqinano leyo mhlawumbi benzima nokucima.
I-fire brigade zifikile izolo bezinokwazi ukwenza umsebenzi wazo but bekungekho ndlela yoba zingakwazi ungena azikwazanga uwenza kakuhle basebenzile we appreciate that but ke ngoku azikwazanga uba zicime ngoku sezikhona because bezingakwazi intoba zihambe impahla zethu zisesitratweni and then azikwazi ungena because kuxinene apha ngasasibonelele ngezindlu urhulumente wethu.
Okay, ndiyava kuthiwa zikhona imeeting ezenzekayo uzama ukhawulelana nale meko ngethemba ikhona into ezawuphuma apha.
Ewe bhuti wam sinethemba nathi ke because shem noceba wethu ukhona apha to support us.
Nibe right ke sisomnye.
Enkosi ke bhuti.
Well, Mxolisi is one of the residents here trying to pick up the rubble from what is remaining of his informal structure, saying of course there's quite a lot of problems that are happening here in Mkolisi, because what she's saying is that they were approved, some of them were approved to get houses, but they did not go to those places as things were on standstill. So what she is saying is that she is hoping that government does try to speed track that process of making sure, of trying to make sure that they move to those temporary structures that they need to move to, so that they provide a space so here and this place can be cleared, and that they can get a conducive environment to live in, because now this has led to what we see here today. And as you heard from the councillor, that most of the halls are closed due to the COVID-19, so they can't even be housed there. So they have to stay here and rebuild, failing which they will be sleeping outside. They will not have anywhere to go today, as no temporary shelter has been provided here today for the people. People are still in high spirits here as they are trying to rebuild some of their homes. You see the devastation that is caused by the fire. People are just trying to make sure that they restructure and also recover what is left of their structures and try to rebuild. As you can see, this is the rubbles and the remnants that they will try to build from. It is going to be quite an uphill battle to try and rebuild in Mkolisi. Molweni, ma'am. I'm trying to get some of the residents to speak to us here in Mkolisi. But from this note, as you can see the extent of the damage, I think I've shown you much of the site, and we'll try and bring you up to speed with everything that is happening here. Protmazi, right? Siyaphila man, sisuke SABC thina sizama uthetha noRhulumente sizama ukuqonda kwenzeke ntoni apha izolo.
Kutshile apha futhi asiyazi umuntu ebujekile kutshile nje.
Hlani thinga inoba kwenzeke ntoni?
I think inoba mhlawumbe ibox mhlawumbe inoba yakwaduma ibox.
Ndiyava kuthiwa noRhulumente akho maholo olala, so is that why nizama ukhawuleza niphinde nayo?
Ya kungobunjalo yekho nje.
Mhlawumbe uphulukene nantoni lapha?
Zininzi into esiphulukene nazo, ukutya, izimpahla, zibhedi, uyabona nje phandle nje.
So lithini ithemba lapha?
Asinalo ezinye elinye ngaphandle kububona siyasebenza.
So ufuna nje okuba ulinde indawo futhi.
Ya. Enye ukutya ubheka phambili ngoba intoni sawuzibona.
Ungabawula ntoni mhlawumbe uRhulumente?
URhulumente angasixhasa malunga nempahla, abantwana besikolo, yabona ngoku abantwana bazawubheka esikolweni abazibana uniform, yabona zanto ezanje. Into ezifana neengubo, ibhedi, ukutya okwesibini, uyayibona lana. Ya uba ke abanye andiqondi abakhona bazakwazi uzibeka ezabini. Angasangazama nezindawo ezifana noba banganeendawo zokuhlala, so ya.
Okay. Kodwa ke akho mntu usolekileyo nolimeleyo, at least
okwangoku asikeva nto befamba kudala simbonile.
ake sibulele nje loo nto kwanza.
Masibulele so.
Kuloo mntu abulela. Police were trying to speak to some of the residents as they are trying to rebuild, saying the only thing now that they want to get is to have a shelter over their heads, as we understand that there are no temporary structures, saying they've lost everything, their beds, their items, their cooking material. So what he's actually asking is that they would love to get maybe a beds and the blankets to sleep, and also food, because they stay with their children, but now they do not know what they will do if they do not get that actually a necessary relief in policy. So this is what they want to get, and people are rushing over time to try and make sure that they rebuild before it dawns later on today, because they do not have any place to put over their heads tonight in police. But they have lost everything, as you can see from these visuals that are brought to you by my colleague Pam Zogufa. The place is gutted to the ground. There's nothing that is left out of it. They are hoping that the powers that be and the Joint Operations Center that has been set up here will try and bring them that necessary relief and things for them to try and rebuild. In Kolisi, let me bring it back to you in studio.
Atule Joka is our reporter there, joining us from Olanga in Cape Town. Thank you so much indeed for that report.